Today we're tier listing every card in NBA Infinite. I gotta go quick so this video isn't 5 hours long. Jonathan Isaac, F tier, not very good. Fred VanVleet, F tier, probably worse. Anthony Simons, decent-ish score, kind of, not really, still F tier. Kellen Johnson, don't know anything about him, probably F tier. Tobias Harris, F tier. Jordan Poole, probably a better score than any of these, still F tier. Andre Drummond, you could argue is easier to hide because he can actually kind of rebound, still probably F tier. And I'm actually going to move Jonathan Isaac because he's easier to hide as well. Tim Hardaway Jr., decent score-ish, still F tier. We're going to throw him in maybe here. And also move Anthony Simons up here. These really low tier cards are going to be kind of inaccurate probably. But anyways, Bronny James, kind of interesting, can block and steal decently. I think actually the best block for a guard, still definitely F tier though, can't score at all. We'll throw him in here, I think, just because he can block. Luka, why is Luka here? Not sure. Let's throw him in. Let me take some time here. He's a legendary. He can pass really well, one of the best passers in the game, can shoot pretty well. But I don't think he's justifiable to have as your first offensive option, and he doesn't give you much value anywhere else. So we'll throw him in B tier for now, but we might change this. Spencer Dinwiddie, probably the best score out of all of these. Still not very good. Do we put him in D tier? No, we're putting him in F. This Curry, definitely F tier. We'll put him in at here, sure. Basically he can only dunk, which isn't very useful. Ben Simmons. Do we put him in D tier? Because he can at least defend and rebound pretty well, but he has no offensive value, which kind of kills the cards. So we'll throw him near the top of F tier, sure. This guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name, even though I'm half Chinese. Sorry. But I think he can shoot. He basically plays like a small forward, even though he's a center. He can shoot well, he's fast, but he can't really shot create. He can't really defend all that well. He's not a good rebounder. I'll throw him in the very bottom of D tier, I think. I think he's a little bit more playable than these cards, although it's debatable. Kyle Anderson, not very good. Just kind of too slow, so I'll throw him at the top of F tier. Maybe actually, I'll put him under Dinwiddie. Capella, he can rebound and block at least. That's like two things he can do. Do I put him in D tier? I think I'll throw him in. I'll throw him in D tier, I guess. I'll put him above this guy just for now. I might move these guys to F tier later. We'll see how this list shakes out. Here we go. Actually, like kind of acceptable cards. Rookie Curry, actually not that acceptable. He can only score. That's his one thing, and obviously he's not near, let's say, even like someone like Luka scoring wise. So he's very difficult to play. I shouldn't say difficult to play, but he's just not optimal. So I think I'll just throw him in D tier because there's like no argument you can make to play him. There's just way better cards. Although he is pretty cheap, so if you want to buy him just because he's cheap, like it's not the worst idea in the world. Kevin Durant, kind of same thing, but a bit better at scoring, so I'll probably throw him above Curry. You could argue you could switch them just because Curry can shoot threes better, but I think Durant's a more complete scorer, so he's a bit more viable. Joel Embiid, also very flawed as a character, can basically only block and rebound, but definitely better than Capella, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, so I have to put him above Capella. I think he's easier to hide on a team than Durant or Curry, just because it's easier to hide a center that can block and rebound, whereas when your scorer can't score all that well, that screws your team. So I'll put him above these two just because he's easier to hide in high lobbies. But I think in lower lobbies, you can definitely make a case that Durant is higher or Curry is higher. Anyways, LeBron, I think maybe the worst of the rookie cards. He's got a nice dunk package, but it's kind of inconsistent to rely on those animations. So we'll throw him at the bottom of these rookies. You could maybe put him above Curry. I think Durant and Embiid are definitely better than him. Jokic, why is Jokic down here? No idea. Jokic is he gonna be S or A? The issue of Jokic is that he can't defend well at all, but he's really good at everything else, kind of. He can't shot create either on his own, but he's a really good screener, he's a great passer, and his biggest thing is he's amazing at rebounding, probably the best rebounder in the game, and he enables offenses that chuck threes, because basically, if you play someone like Curry, and let's say you shoot 50% on threes on Curry, and you get 50% of the rebounds, largely because of Nikola Jokic on offense, then you're already averaging 2 points a possession. So you can make the argument that Jokic him being bad at defense and being dunked on every possession, if that's what happens, literally doesn't matter because he enables an offense that can match or outscore that if you shoot better than 50% from free or if you get more than 50% of the offensive rebounds. So I'm going to throw him an S for now. We'll probably be low S tier because he's not as versatile, but I do think he's very in the meta right now, and I think probably the most meta lineup, which I'll talk about later, does include him, so he's going to be an S tier. I don't think I'll move him down. I think I'll keep him in S tier probably. Next player, Yang Hansen. What does he do again? I think he's not that good, but I think he's got a dunk package. I think he can shoot a little bit, although I'm maybe misremembering. Definitely not very viable though, so we'll keep him in D. I'll say he's maybe worse than the rookie Curry. Hard to say, but I'm going to put him there for now. Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper can't really do much, I don't think. So I'll throw him in the bottom of D. Maybe even F, honestly. If I remember correctly, he can't really shoot that well, and his best stat is passing or something, which isn't very useful. So I think I'll actually throw him in F tier for now. Maybe I'll move Kyle Anderson down a bit. Let's put Kyle Anderson here for now, sure. Let's put him here. All right, next up, Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez, actually not bad. So he can do three things, sort of. He can defend, he can space the floor of his three-point shooting. He can defend because he can block, by the way. And he's okay-ish at rebounding. I think around 680, 690 at rebounding. So I do think he's better than these rookie cards. Does that mean he should be in C tier? I think I'll throw him in the top of D tier just for now. I want to see how this list shakes out. I might move him up. He's definitely at the top of D tier, definitely better than all these cards. He's still certainly not optimal, not the best player of his archetype, but if you play him in a top lobby, he won't be completely played off the floor necessarily, so I do think he's certainly better than these characters, these other characters beneath him at least. Russell Westbrook, a solid defender, very little offensive value, can't be your best offensive scorer, not really much off-ball value. I see some people say they like him, I think just because of his defense, but there's way better and still pretty cheap defensive options, so I don't really see a reason to play him. I think you could even put him in F tier, but I'll throw him towards the bottom of D. Maybe better than these two cards. Capella can rebound though. I guess Westbrook can as well. I'll throw him above Capella, although you could argue him being at the bottom of D or an F, I think. Next up, we have Nikola Vucevic. So I'm not putting him in F tier. Let's throw him here for now, just as I talk about him. He can pass, he can shoot, he can rebound, not much defensive value. He's like a worse Jokic in a lot of ways. And I think even among the worst Jokic archetype, he's kind of one of the worst in that archetype. So I don't think he can be C tier. I actually think he's probably worse than Brook Lopez, even if he is a better rebounder. I think Vucevic can maybe block a little bit. Can he? I don't remember. Regardless, even if he can block a little bit, I think Brook Lopez is probably better, because I know Brook Lopez is definitely a better blocker. I think Vucevic probably gonna throw him beneath rookie Embiid because he's worse defensively. Although, oops, not there. You can argue he's maybe more towards the top of D tier, but I'm gonna throw him here for now. Next up, VJ Edgecombe. He's actually a pretty decent scorer. Definitely better than any of these characters in F tier. Of course, you still don't want him to be your best scoring option. He's still not very playable, I'd say. So I put him below these big men. Maybe, is he better than rookie Durant at scoring? I think he might be slightly worse or slightly better. I'll throw him beneath rookie Durant for now, but I think he could be a little bit higher potentially. Again, I'm not the most familiar with these lower tier cards. I obviously don't play them too much. I don't see them too much. But one I am kind of interested in is Cooper Flag. So this guy is pretty underrated. He's an all-around card, and there are better cards in that archetype. But as a cheap card, he can shoot, he can defend, he can rebound. He can do a little bit of shot creation if you need him to. I think he's a very good card to learn the game at a cheap price. He does a bit of everything. He's not going to hold you back too much, especially in lower lobbies. He's the first card that I'd really recommend potentially buying if you're newer to the game. Does that get him to C tier? I think I'll throw him in C tier for now. He might be low C tier. I think is he better than Brook Lopez? I think for solo queue he's better. In trio queue, if you're queuing with teammates, maybe Brook Lopez has more teams he can fit in. But I'll put Cooper Flag in C tier for now. D'Angelo Russell, where did I move him to? I have no idea. I accidentally clicked on him and now he's gone. He's probably somewhere in here. I don't have time to look. So we're moving on to Miles Turner. Miles Turner is the first card in the kind of free and D and block big man category, which is a pretty valuable category. I don't think he's particularly bad in that category either. He can shoot the free pretty well, has that 3-point shooting bonus and is exclusive, around 700 free, I think, base. He's a good blocker, not like super duper S tier, I think around 8-12 block. So he's not as good at defending as, say, a Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's a solid shooter. He can be decent in that support role. Not a great rebounder, like okay-ish, and I think the mid to high 600s. So I think I'll throw him above Cooper Flagg. I do think he's like playable. Like obviously there are better cards in his archetype, but similar to Brook Lopez, he's not just going to be played off the floor in a top lobby. So I think I'll throw him in C tier, and he definitely has some defensive value. Next up, we have Zach LaVine. That's not Zach LaVine, that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Next up, we have Zach LaVine. He can score pretty well. Definitely a better scorer than anyone on this list besides Luka, I'd say. So, he can't really defend that well. And there are much better scorers. I'll throw him in C tier. I think he's probably better than Cooper Flagg, but worse than Miles Turner. The thing is, I think a lot of people overrate scoring. Like, if we're talking just scoring, obviously he's much higher, but if you're playing a score that's not a top tier score, it's kind of just really not optimal and it hurts your team a lot. But you can get away with playing a Miles Turner more because a Miles Turner does not need the ball in their hands to do what they do. Zach LaVine does. Anyways, next up, J-Dub, J-Will. Wait, is his name J-Dub? Or is that the other Jay Williams on Oklahoma City? I know someone's nicknamed J-Dub, but anyways, Jay Williams, he's very good from the mid-range. I think around like 910 or 930 mid-range. Got a decent driving exclusive buff, multiple of them actually. And he's actually a pretty good defender. And he's an okay 3-point shooter. I think 693 3-point if I remember correctly. So where am I going to put him? I think he's better than Zach LaVine. I think he's better than Miles Turner. I think it wouldn't be completely insane if you play him in like an HRF lobby. I don't think it's optimal. I think someone like either Drew Holiday or maybe more of a scorer. If you do want like free and D, then Drew Holiday is better. J-Will does a better shot creation, but you don't really want him to be your primary shot creator. However, you can maybe get away with it, even if it's not optimal. I'll throw him... Is he C or B? I'll throw him at the top of C for now. Next up, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is underrated. His block ability allows him to contest from a little bit further than other guards / forwards. He's textbook free and D. He's going to stand in the corner on offense, and he's going to defend the other team's best guard on defense. And I think he can actually fit into the meta next to a lineup that uses, let's say, LeBron or Giannis to generate offense. And he can just like be the one they kick out to if they're doubled. And because he has defensive value and because LeBron and Giannis can cover some of the rebounding along with whatever center you run with, I think he's pretty viable actually. I'm going to throw him in B tier. He's not viable. Like if this is solo queue, he's much lower. But I think if you have the right free stack, he's perfectly playable in top lobbies, I'd say. But I do think there might be better options you could argue that I'll get into later. De'Aaron Fox, not very playable. He's a mid-range character. He can get some separation, but he's obviously not as good as, say, a Shai in the mid-range, or Shai, whatever his name is. And overall, I just don't think he's that good. Not much defensive value. Can't really rebound. Actually, he's okay at stealing, but not great. I'll throw him in D tier probably. He's probably better than rookie Curry. Sure, I'll say that. Chet Holmgren, another free and D center who can block. Kind of similar to Miles Turner. I actually think Miles Turner is kind of just better than Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren, a little bit better defensively, I think. Miles Turner, a bit better at rebounding and shooting, but not by much. I think Chet Holmgren is either like exactly the same as Miles Turner or very slightly worse. So I'll throw him right behind him. Next up, Draymond Green. Draymond Green is an interesting card. He's the card I've played the most in NBA Infinite. I was like number 3 on Draymond Green, among Draymond Greens, I mean, in the rated leaderboard thingy. I do think he's playable, but in a weird way. So what makes Draymond Green really interesting is that you can argue he can guard guards while also being a really good rebounder. Like, you could put him on Steph Curry, and because he's short, because his defensive badges are really good, because his exclusive is good, it's not a horrible matchup, and he actually can shoot the free enough to justify shooting them. I think I shoot something like 66% from free on Draymond Green because I just exclusively shoot wide open corner frees, which is more than good enough to, like, you know, justify shooting them. So I do think he's playable in top lobbies with the right team around him. Similar to Mikal Bridges, he's kind of in a 3-and-D role, but he does provide that rebounding, so you could argue he's better. I don't know if he's A tier though. I feel like that's too high for him. I think he's more versatile than Mikal Bridges, so I'll put him just above him for now. Next up, Kristaps Porzingis. This is a 3-and-D center, but he's not very fast, which really kills his value. He's a better rebounder than, let's say, Holmgren or Miles Turner, but just speed is probably the most important stat in the game, and not having it kills your offensive abilities, or sorry, defensive abilities when you're a shot blocker, because you can't help as effectively. So I think I'll put him at the top of D tier. He's actually quite similar to Brook Lopez. They're both limited by speed, both 3-and-D and block centers. They're like decent at rebounding. Porzingis probably a bit better shooting, probably a bit better at rebounding, maybe a bit worse defensively, you could argue, but I think he's slightly better than Lopez. Paulo Banchero, don't know too much about him, but I know he's not that great of a scorer, not that great of a defender. I think he's got like 750 mid-range or something. Not a great three-point shot. Don't really see a reason to play him, to be honest. I think he's in D tier, definitely. We'll throw him above rookie LeBron, above Hansen too, I think. Actually, I'm going to move rookie LeBron above Hansen. I don't think Hansen is that great, although he does have a nice dunk package. I'll keep Hansen above LeBron for now. Next up, Vlade Divac. This is the character I've played the second most, I think. And he's very interesting. He has insane exclusives that buff his blocking and rebounding, which is very nice. He's basically Jokic, but he can block, which is insanely good. He's not a great blocker, but he's not bad. But he gives up two very important stats in exchange for that. He's not the strongest for a center. I think he's got around 600 strength, but he's insanely slow, and that's what you could argue kills the card. That kills his defensive value. He has around 300 something speed, I think, and he's just like geriatric out there. Now, he does have this exclusive that basically counters power juking, which is really good. And he's like a good surprise pick against a LeBron if a LeBron is like trying to power juke like crazy. But because he's so slow, he's not really a long-term solution to guarding someone like LeBron or other characters who can power juke and who have speed. He's a really good rebounder, he's a really good passer, and he can shoot the free well enough to justify shooting them. I think I shoot around 65% with him from free. He's really hard to rank here. Like, he's just so slow. That's the issue. That's his one thing. I'm gonna throw him in C tier right here. I'm putting him above Miles Turner and Chet Holmgren because he is a better rebounder. And although he's worse defensively, I think at least with Divac, you can argue there's something he can do that no other card in the game can do, which is counter power jukes. So you can at least like kind of try to make an argument that you can justify playing him. Whereas with Miles Turner and Chet Holmgren, they're just better cards in their archetype. Whereas with Divac, what he can do, it's not really replicatable. Of course, he does have more weaknesses with his speed, I think. But just because he has that exclusive that gives him his anti-power juke thing, I think I'll put him above these other cards for now. Next up, LaMelo Ball. Good passer, not a bad scorer. I think he's a little bit similar to Zach LaVine, just like a little worse at scoring, better at passing. I'll put him above Zach LaVine, I think. Aaron Gordon. He is good. He can rebound. He's got good speed and strength, especially for a power forward or small forward or whatever he's listed in. He can shoot the free, but he doesn't have much defensive value. He's like a decent straight up defender because his defense stat is like around 600. He's got good speed and strength, like I said, but he can't block, he can't steal. I think he's pretty solidly in the C tier. He's a good cheap support character. This is another character I'd recommend buying if you're new to the game and you're free stacking. Even if you're solo queuing, he's not bad because he can rebound pretty well. He can also alley-oop spam a little bit, which is nice. His alley-ooping is pretty good. So maybe he deserves to be a little higher. I don't think he's as good as Miles Turner or Chet Holmgren because they have more defensive value. I'll throw him right above LaMelo Ball. But again, he's a nice character to pick up if you're newer to the game and you need a cheap rebounder slash shooter. Next up, Giannis. Okay, I think Giannis is going to be our second S tier here. He's one of the best shot creators in the game because his double pump dunk out of the Euro step is pretty much unstoppable one-on-one if you know what you're doing. And he's also great on defense. So his only weakness is he can't shoot like at all. But if he's the one with the ball just scoring 2 points every time, you don't need to worry about that too much. You cannot run him next to other people who can't shoot because then they'll just double team Giannis and that kills your offense. So he's not as versatile. He doesn't fit into as many lineups as some other S tiers that we'll talk about later. But if you do have a free stack with him that has good synergy, I mean, he's just insanely good as a dunker and defender, and he can rebound too. And I think he fits great, like I said earlier, of free and D, not shooters, guards, like, where is he? Mikal Bridges. Like Giannis, Mikal Bridges, that's a really good synergy. Throw in like a good defensive center, like a Wemby or a Garnett that can rebound well, and that's a pretty good free stack. Anyways, next up, Tyrese Halliburton, very similar to LaMelo. Is he worse or better? This is the eternal debate. I've played them both quite a bit in old NBA Infinite. I think Halliburton might be worse, because I think Halliburton's exclusive buffs for passing out of his exclusive... Wait, what am I saying? I think Halliburton's exclusive buffs for passing only apply out of fake passes, like off of pump fakes, whereas LaMelo's are slightly more applicable to just regular passes. So I'm going to throw him below LaMelo, but they're really similar. You could go either way here. I also think LaMelo's a little bit better defensively, maybe? I could be wrong. Anyways, Peja Stojakovic, elite shooter from both the mid-range and the free. Can't really do much else though. So I think he's in the C tier. I think he's better than Zach LaVine. I think he's probably better than these two passers. I don't think he fits into as many lineups as Aaron Gordon, even though he is a much better scorer, just because he can't defend. And if you're playing Peja, why are you not playing Curry or, Harden or someone else who can shot create better, Next up, Rudy Gobert. And this is the first of not the first, but it's the first decent character who's all block and all rebound basically, and all defense. Now the downside to these cards is they can't shoot and they can't shot create for themselves very well. So that really kind of kills them in top lobbies. I think cards like Rudy Gobert are perfectly playable in lower ranks or in non-free stack lobbies, but in really high lobbies where you're going against free stacks, people are just going to help like crazy off of Rudy Gobert, and that's really going to kill your offense no matter who your scorer is. You can maybe try to run Steph next to Gobert and just shoot like only frees and hope they don't double off of Gobert that far. But even then, like, the help you can, or the other team can provide off of Gobert is like really detrimental to your offense in higher lobbies. So I think for that reason I'll throw him in C tier probably. But like in lower lobbies, like he's definitely much higher, probably B or A. But in high lobbies, which is what I'm trying to judge this on mostly, I'll probably throw him in C. Let's say here. I think he's better than these two actually. Let's throw him below Aaron Gordon. All right. Next one, Shea. He's good. He's a very good mid-range scorer. However, I don't think he's as good as the top scorers in the game, and he doesn't provide much else besides scoring. Like if we compare him with Giannis, obviously he's a better shooter than Giannis, way better. But regardless, neither of them are going to be playing off ball too much. They're both going to be the primary scorers for their team. And the difference, I think, is that Giannis is just kind of a better scorer due to double pump dunk. Shea obviously automatic from mid-range and a good 3-point shooter too, but that's not as automatic every time as Giannis is dunking. So I'm going to throw Shea actually in B. Do I throw him low A or B tier? I'm just going to put him in A for now. He might go down to B tier just because I think primary offensive options that aren't like super good lose a ton of value because you're just straight up losing points next to someone like Giannis or Curry or whatever. Next up, we have Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday, one of my favorite characters, play him a lot. Very good defensively, arguably the best guard defender in the game with his steals, who is anti-quick juke exclusive. I'm gonna throw him in A tier, I think. Can he score as well as Shea? Obviously not, but he fits great next to guys like Giannis and LeBron because he doesn't need to shot create as a guard and he can just like have a ton of value on defense. Basically, as long as you're playing a role where shot creation isn't super important and also a role where you need to defend another guard, that's where Jrue Holiday is insanely good because he's textbook 3-and-D. He'll generate stops off of his steals too, which is really nice to have. That can easily be the difference in these top lobbies where like people are shooting 100% most of the time. So I think he's pretty viable. You can play him in any rank. Very good character. Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes is one of the most interesting characters in the game. He has this really cool exclusive where until he gets a steal or a block or a rebound, he gets a 20% buff in all three of those categories, and they go away like one by one. So if he gets a steal, his buffs and rebounding and blocks don't go away. He still keeps them until he gets a rebound or a block, but he's really bad at shooting, and that kind of kills the card. I think he's pretty valuable defensively, especially early in the game. He's got a great dominance as well. His dominance gives him, I think, a 40% buff in stealing, blocking, and rebounding, which is insane. However, his shooting just makes him so unviable on offense. And he's probably not as good defensively as, say, a Gobert. So he's probably bottom of C tier, I'd say. If they buffed even just his mid-range or his 3-point shooting and made him like actually able to shoot the ball, he could go up quite a bit, I think. Klay Thompson, interesting card. Really, the thing that limits Klay Thompson, he's obviously a great 3-point shooter. He has good defensive badges / stats, except for his speed. His speed really kills him. I think if he had good speed, he could be pretty high up there. And his exclusive move of like his catch and sidestep is really fast, kind of insane. However, just his speed kind of really hurts his value on defense and on offense as a shot creator. I think you could run him next to a Giannis or LeBron as a 3-and-D, but he's not as good at defending as, say, a Jrue Holiday or a Mikal Bridges. I think I'll throw him in C tier. I think he's like a textbook C tier. Has some weaknesses, has some strengths. I'll put him right above Gobert, maybe. I'll put him above Gobert, I think. And no, I think Gobert's better in earlier lobbies, and they're both kind of inviolable in high lobbies. I think he's actually pretty similar to Peja, but maybe a bit better defensively, so I'll throw him above Peja. D'Lo, this is the card I dropped earlier on accident, I think, if I remember correctly. Not very good. Really his only thing is he can score, I think, and obviously there's way better scores. So I think he's probably either a low D or an F tier. I think I'll throw him towards the bottom of D. Is he better than... I'll say he's better than Capella. Actually, looking at this, maybe I throw Dinwiddie in D. Maybe I throw Harper in D? I really think Harper's not that good, though. Actually, I'm going to keep Dinwiddie in F. I lied. Next up, Paul George, the old GOAT of NBA Infinite, some would say. Still very good defensively. His shot creation has been nerfed. He's not horrible as a shot creator, clearly not as good as the top tier shot creators. He can play a 3-and-D role again next to like a Giannis or a LeBron, but I don't think he's as good at defending as Jrue Holiday in a meta which is more ISO than screen based. His exclusive makes him way better at dodging screens. So I think if we go into a more screen based meta, he could be up there as a very good defender. But right now we're more in an ISO meta, so I think he's not as strong of a card. He's not quite as good of a stealer as Jrue Holiday. He's probably going to be quick juked a little bit more. So I think he's in B tier. But I think he's playable. You can play Paul George and get away with it, definitely, if you have the right cards next to him. Chris Paul. This is the current version of Chris Paul, not the prime version. And I don't really remember too much about him. I don't think he's that good, though. I think he's got a decent mid-range, decent defense. We'll throw him towards the bottom of D tier. And now DeRozan, also not the greatest. Very good mid-range card. He can score decently. But comparing to someone like J-Dub, assuming that's his name, I still don't know if J-Dub is actually his nickname. He just doesn't have the defensive value, so he's probably going to be a higher D tier because he can score decently at least. We'll throw him... Actually, we'll throw him like here, I think. Yeah, I think that works. Next up is Shane Battier. Shane Battier, is it Shane Battier or Shane Battier? I think it's Shane Battier. Very good free and D character, a little bit slow though. He's got great anti-juke buffs. And he's a good three-point shooter. So again, he's a card that fits great next to Giannis and LeBron. He can actually rebound okay-ish as well. I think around 530 rebound. Is he better than Mikal Bridges? I think they're very similar cards. I think he's maybe slightly better. They're both good defenders. Both have an exclusive that helps them block, kind of. Shane Battier has that, I forget what it's called, but he's got that anti-fadeaway / anti-drifting shot block when you hold defense, which I don't think actually blocks it, it just gives you a really good contest. But I think he's a good free and D character. Good anti-juke buff, so I think he's kind of playable in higher lobbies. Maybe not optimal. I do think Drew Holiday is the best character in this free and D archetype, but you can definitely play Shane Battier and Mikal Bridges, they're quite playable. Clyde Drexler, oh my goodness, do not get me started on Clyde Drexler. I could talk about hours about this guy. Nobody plays him, but he is an instant S tier for me. This guy's blocks are undunkable, but unblockable. Unblockable. Are you kidding me? It's literally in the description. I can't be bothered to edit this video. I would show it on screen, but like it literally says in the description, this guy's dunks out of his exclusive are unblockable. No cancel frames either, by the way, similar to Giannis's Euro. And with his dominance, he can dunk from the 3-point line. By the way, he can shoot the ball too, 600 free and like 930 mid-range. He is the best 2-point scorer in the game. It's automatic in one-on-one coverage. Giannis can score dunks 100% of the time. Clyde Drexler can score dunks 200% of the time. Okay, he's insanely good, and he's really good defensively. His only weaknesses are just because he's a guard, he can't block or rebound that well, but he's a guard, it's fine. You can play two bigs next to him that can shoot, and you are balling. Put Kevin Garnett and Wemby next to him, you have the greatest defensive lineup of like all time. You can pass out if you need to if they double team you, and honestly, even if they double team you on Clyde Drexler, you should be able to dunk on them anyways. It's 2 points for free every possession with Clyde Drexler. He is so underrated. Nobody plays him. He's amazingly good if you have the right team around him. Not as good in solo queue as Giannis because he can't rebound quite as well or block, but in a trio queue, he can defend the best guard on the other team, and he can be your entire offense by himself. All right, next character, Bam Adebayo. He's okay. He's pretty fast, and he has a nice shot contest boost. I think a 50% shot contest boost against people who aren't his matchup, which is nice on help defense, but he's limited by the fact he can't block and he can't shoot freeze. Great mid-range shooter. Don't think he's very viable. I think he's towards the bottom of C tier probably. Throw him above Scotty Barnes, definitely. He's a good rebounder, which helps him. Maybe a little bit higher, actually. We'll throw him here. Next up, we got Jamal Murray. He's just kind of an ISO scorer, but he's not obviously as good as the top scorers. I think he's definitely better than someone like DeRozan. I'll throw him in C tier. I think he's kind of similar to Zach LaVine, maybe a bit better. We'll throw him here. Not there. Here. There we go. Next up, Jamal Crawford. The best dribbler in the game, some would say. Good at getting shots off. Again, not quite as good at shot creating as like a Curry. Not going to be as efficient. Not much defensive value. Do think he's better than someone like Jamal Murray, though, at shot creation. So I'll throw him... He's really similar to someone like Rudy Gobert. We can absolutely play him. Well, okay, he's the exact opposite of Rudy Gobert in every way, but he's similar in the sense that you can play him in lower lobbies, but just in higher lobbies, his weaknesses are gonna kind of kill you, and he's not like so unbelievably good at what he's good at that he can just like justify playing himself. That really didn't make sense, but I think you get what I'm saying. So I think in that regard he's similar to Rudy Gobert. I'll throw him right above him. Darius Garland, actually pretty underrated. Good score, again, not as good as the top scorers, but I think he's a good 3-point shooter. Is he better than Jamal Crawford at scoring? They're both basically just like pure scores, kind of. I'm gonna throw him one below Jamal Crawford, I think. Gary Payton, good defender, interesting exclusive for defense. For some reason, they didn't give him very good stealing, which just completely kills the card. So I'm going to throw him in low C tier. Maybe like mid C tier. Like low mid C tier, I'll throw him here. DeAndre Jordan, very similar to Rudy Gobert, a little bit more offensive value of his alley-oops, a little bit worse blocking, a little bit better rebounding. I'll throw him right above Rudy Gobert. Just like Rudy Gobert, the fact that he doesn't really have any off-ball value, can't shoot the mid-range, can't shoot the free, just kills him and his team on offense in higher lobbies. But he's very playable in lower lobbies, I think. John Morant, he has the double pump dunk, which means he's like kind of viable as a scorer, but I think all of his dunks have cancel frames. And when I say cancel frames, I mean you can still get the dunk canceled even if there's no one in your blue zone. If there's someone right outside of your blue zone and you run into them as you're doing the dunk, someone like Giannis, Clyde Drexler don't have those cancel frames on their exclusives. Ja does, which really hurts him offensively, means he's not that efficient. I think he's a worse scorer than Darius Garland. I'll put him below Clay and Peja just because he can't really shoot that well either. Next up, Zion. Basically just Giannis, but worse in every way, and not as consistent scoring-wise. Just not a very good card. He can rebound at least. I think he's like okay-ish at defense. Probably a C-tier card. Kind of similar to Ja. I think he's maybe better than Ja just because he can rebound. Probably not as good as a shooter. Pretty similar cards, these two. I'll throw him one above Ja. Actually, I think he's worse than Ja because he can't shoot. All right, next up, JJJ. JJJ, pretty good card. He's the next card up in the free and D and block archetype with some rebounding. He's arguably the best card in that free and D and block archetype because he's really good defensively. His exclusive block gives him better range from the side and behind. You could argue him for B tier, and I think that is where I'll throw him. I think he's probably slightly better than these two cards. The one thing with him is that he can't switch onto guards as effectively because he only has solid footwork 1, meaning he'll be quick juked more, but the fact that he can play more on the side and behind does help him with his blocking. So I think he's right below Shane Battier. Basically, all 4 of these cards are like 3 and D cards. Just Jaren Jackson is the more like big version of that. He can rebound, not as good at defending guards. So it's kind of like just what do you want out of your free and D character? Pick one of these, whatever, based on what you need. Anyways, Evan Mobley, again, 3 and D in block archetype, not as good at shooting threes, but if you're running someone like a LeBron, he's good enough because of his passing badges, LeBron's passing badges, I mean, that he can shoot threes decently. And what's really nice about Mobley is he has both a floater and a reaching steal, which I think are arguably the 2 best moves in the game. Floater obviously helps you on offense. He's not going to be a shot creator, so the floater's not a huge deal, but the reaching steal is nice. It helps you with contesting and closing out. So I do think he's better than Miles Turner and Holmgren in this role. He's not as good of a blocker as JJJ and not as good of a shooter, so I think he's below JJJ. Is he B tier though? I think it's kind of close. I'm going to throw him at the very top at C tier just because of his reaching steal. I think it gives him really nice value on defense. But I think you could make a case for B tier. Next up, Kevin Durant, very good scorer. Still don't think he's a top level scorer because if you're not just dunking every time, the mid-range isn't as effective as dunks, obviously, because you can literally just dunk every time with Clyde Drexler one-on-one coverage. He can shoot the free, unlike Clyde Drexler, but his 3-point shooting is hard to justify when like Steph Curry is in the game. So I think if Steph wasn't in the game, then like Kevin Durant could maybe be S tier, but I think for now he's probably A tier. Just because he's not as efficient as the super duper top scorers and he doesn't give you much on defense and rebounding. He's not necessarily a bad defender, but he's not, JJJ or Giannis or anything. Cade Cunningham, not that good of a card, not that great of a scorer. I think he's going to be like high D probably. Kind of similar to DeRozan, but maybe just worse as a scorer actually. Maybe I'll put him lower. Let's put him above. I think Edgecombe is better too because he can shoot the 3 at least. I think he's very similar to De'Aaron Fox actually, probably also worse than De'Aaron Fox to be honest. Very similar to Paulo, I think that's a better comparison. Or from above Paulo, I think he's probably a better scorer, I could be wrong. Trae Young, good shooter, good passer, really bad defense, decent speed, decent steal though. You don't want him to be your primary offensive creator, but like if you have to, you can. I think he's pretty cheap. That's the one upside to Trae. So like if you want to buy him because he's cheap and you don't have the money to go get like a Curry or a Shea or someone who's better creating offense, he's not bad. But I don't think he's as good as someone like Luka even. So I'll throw him towards the top of C tier. From above Divock. I think that's a good place for him. Francis is a really good dunker, but all of his dunks have cancel frames, which means he can't just dunk abuse like a Clyde Drexler. He does a double pump dunk, which helps him quite a bit. Very good speed. If he was good at defense, if he had a high defense stat, he'd be pretty nice. His defense stat is pretty low though, so he can't defend all that well. Hard to justify playing him when you have much better options like Drexler, like Giannis, who can dunk way better as well. So I think he's actually pretty low. I'm gonna throw him in. I think he's probably better than Scotty Barnes though, so I'll throw him towards the bottom of C tier. Sabonis, basically like a worse Jokic. If Jokic didn't exist, you could try to justify playing Sabonis, but I just don't think he's that good with Jokic existing. Probably like another low-ish C tier card. I'll throw him here, I guess. Kind of similar to Peyton. Again, kind of actually the exact opposite of Peyton, but just they have weaknesses. Sabonis is really slow. That's his biggest weakness, and he can't defend. At least Jokic is fast, kind of, relative to some other centers. Kirilenko, in the discussion for like maybe the best defender in the game. I think Garnett is probably the best defender in the game now, but Kirilenko, I think most people would agree, at worst top 3. His shooting is only 600 from 3. So it really comes down to, is it worth it to shoot open threes of Andre Kirilenko? Because if it's not, then the other team can leave him open and he kills your offense, similar to Rudy Gobert or DeAndre Jordan. But if you can justify shooting threes of him, then he's really good on defense, and he's an okay rebounder at 750 if I remember correctly. I think he really needs to be next to LeBron, or at least someone with really good passing badges, because you need passing badges to bring his shooting up. I think he could also work next to someone like Luka. Luka has that open shot passing buff in his exclusive, where if their teammate shoots an open shot off of a Luka pass, it gives them like really good buffs. So I think maybe he could actually have the best synergy with Luka. However, I think he's a little bit limited on offense, so he's going to be, I'm actually going to put him at the top of C tier. He's quite similar to Mobley, but better at defense, better at rebounding. Just, I can tell you, Mobley is definitely good enough off of LeBron passes to justify shooting threes. I don't know if Kirilenko is, and that's why I'm kind of hesitant to put him above Mobley. I'm going to put him above though, just for now. Well, I'm just going to keep him there. I think, is 600 free enough? I don't know. It's hard to say. If 600 free isn't enough, he's probably lower C tier or like mid C tier, but he's very good defensively. Definitely playable in lower lobbies, by the way. His defense is insane. Maybe playable in higher lobbies. Maxey, good score. I think very similar to Garland, maybe slightly better to score than Garland. Where's Garland? He's here. Okay, I'm just going to put him right above Garland. Adams, great rebounder, decent rim protector. He's great at offensive rebounding, so he can fit next to a Curry similar to Jokic, where he enables that three-point shooting offense. But the difference is that he can't shoot threes like Jokic, so you can just leave Adams in the paint and give up twos whenever you want. And for that reason, I think he's pretty similar to Gobert and DeAndre Jordan. More rebounding value, less defensive value. So I will throw him, I think, right next to Gobert if it lets me. There we go. Right below Gobert. You could argue, actually, I'm from above Gobert. Actually, I think because of his rebounding, because he has an exclusive box out, it does make him better at rebounding quite a bit. Maybe he's like here. It's a little bit high. Let's throw him next to DeAndre Jordan. Again, in solo queue, like in, you know, or not in solo queue, in like earlier ranks, I think these guys like DeAndre, like Steven Adams are much higher, definitely better than someone like Aaron Gordon. Just in higher ranks, like in really high lobbies, I mean, not having 3-point shooting or mid-range is just going to kill you. And that's why Aaron Gordon is higher. I don't know why I just focus on Aaron Gordon specifically, but whatever. Onwards to Mutombo, very, very similar to Gobert. I'd say slightly better though. So I'll put him above Gobert. I'd put him maybe above DeAndre Jordan because he's a bit better of a blocker. I'll put him below Steve Adams though. Again, very similar to DeAndre Jordan, very similar to Gobert, just not much offensive value. Actually, maybe I put him a bit higher because he can shoot the mid-range a bit better than his contemporaries and his archetype. Still not really enough to justify shooting them that much, but like, he's okay from the mid-range at least. So I'll put him a bit higher, maybe right next to Aaron Gordon. I still think the best defense against a team that has Mutombo is just to let Mutombo shoot mid-ranges, but that's at least going to be more efficient than having Steven Adams or Gobert shoot mid-ranges. Next up is Kawhi. Kawhi, I've played a lot. My first video on NBA Infinite is on him, or at least recently. At least on the new update, I mean. And he's pretty good. He can shoot the free okay at 700 free. He's obviously a very good defender. Very good at stealing. I think he might just be a slightly worse Drew Holiday though. He's basically Drew Holiday, very slightly worse stealing. Probably very slightly worse anti-quick juking. But he's probably a little bit better at guarding bigger characters because of his height and his clamp down effect. However, I think if you're playing Kawhi, you want to play him next to Giannis or LeBron, and they're going to be guarding the forwards anyways. They already have the strength, so I think Drew Holiday is just a little bit better in that role, and for that reason, I'm going to put Kawhi in B tier. Kawhi, though, is a much better shot creator. However, like I've said for most of this list, if you're a shot creator but not as good as the top shot creators, you can't really justify being a shot creator, you know? So he's more in that free and D role, but he's not as good at shooting frees, not quite as good at defending guards as Drew Holiday. I'm going to throw him in a similar tier as someone like Mikal Bridges. I think he's a bit better than Paul George at least, maybe a bit better than Mikal as well. I'll throw him here for now. He might be better than Jaren Jackson Jr. as well because he can steal pretty well. I'll throw him here actually. Is he better than Draymond? Better 3-point shooter than Draymond. Can't rebound though, so I'll throw him here. Jimmy Butler, I feel bad for him with the injury, ACL tear recently. If you don't know, he's out for the season. That sucks for me as well. I'm a Warriors fan. Tragic. I don't think he's that good in this game though. Not really that good at anything, to be honest, unfortunately. So I think he's going to be in D tier. He can defend at least decently, but he's not great at defense. He can score a little bit, but he's not great at scoring. I'll throw him, I think he's below DeRozan. Probably above Fox because he's... I'll throw him here, I think, just because he can't really score all that well. Next up, Steph Curry. This is a pretty easy S tier. He is the most efficient offense in the game, in my opinion. His 3-point shooting is just insane. The top Steph Curry shooters are shooting 30% from, or not 30% from free, 66% from free, which is basically as good as just dunking every time from 2, except it's even better because your team can get offensive rebounds off of those frees, meaning you're averaging more than 2 points per possession. The only downside to Curry is he's obviously not great defensively, but he's just so good at offense that he's always going to be meta unless they nerf 3-point shooting. So he is absolutely in discussion for the best card in the game. I think any of these S tier cards you could make the case is the best card in the game. I think out of all the ones I've mentioned, I think Curry is the most popular, he's the most meta, and he's seen the most success. So I will put him at the top of S tier for now. Chris Bosh, my old main. I like this card. I think in the old NBA Infinite, he would maybe be S tier, but the issue is now blockers are like everywhere in terms of like you can buy blockers easy. So his ability to block, which honestly isn't even that great, isn't as valuable as it would be in the old NBA Infinite. He's a very all-round card. He's similar to Cooper Flag, but just kind of better in every way almost. His exclusive dunk is nice. You can abuse it on people who can't block. It has no cancel frames. Do I think he's B tier? I think he's going to be at the very top of C tier, which is probably lower than a lot of other people would put him. But he's not good enough to be your best shot creator. And actually, I think more so the problem of Chris Bosh is that there's a much better card in his archetype. In a vacuum, he could be B or A tier, but considering what else you have available that I'm going to talk about later, I think he's C tier. Next up, Jaylen Brown. I heard he's going to get a buff in the Chinese version, or he did get a buff, which means he might get a buff soon in the global version. But for now, he's not all that good. He's basically just like worse Jason Tatum in every way. So I'm going to throw him towards the bottom of D tier probably. I think it's very hard to justify playing him. Not that good of a scorer. He's okay on defense, but not insane. Honestly, even like Cooper Flag and Levine might be better than him. I'll throw him between Levine and Cooper Flag for now. Pascal Siakam, my old main from the old NBA Infinite. He has a floater now, which is really nice. He used to not have that. I think in a lot of ways he's like a worse Chris Bosh, but his exclusive is pretty nice for rebounding. I think he's definitely C tier. You can play him, but he can't really block, and he's a good defender, but he's not good enough to like justify guarding Curry or whatever. He's just not that great. He's not that great at anything, to be honest. He's kind of another all-round flag similar to Cooper Flag. Did I say all-round flag? All-round player similar to Cooper Flag. I do think he's a little bit better than Cooper Flag. I'll throw him maybe like here. Yeah, I think he's not super playable in top lobbies, to be honest. Anthony Davis, really good in the old NBA Infinite in the earlier patches. In the current patch of this NBA Infinite, he doesn't have that exclusive block move that he used to. That really kills the card. Not a great shooter either. I think there's just better options in his archetype. I do think he's much more viable than... is he more viable than someone like Mutombo? I think they're actually pretty similar at mid-range shooting. I think the reason I'm going to put Anthony Davis a bit higher is he's much faster, which makes him better at help defense, makes him better against smaller players. So you can play him more to stop the free ball. But just like Mutombo, you're not really going to get offensive value out of Anthony Davis, and that kind of kills the card. Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's a very interesting card. Another very good all-around card, but he can't really block all that well. I think Jason Tatum's actually kind of underrated, but at the same time, he's not. And the reason I say that, he's not really bad at anything. He's got decent speeds, I think around 700 speed, pretty good strength, above 800. He's a pretty good free-point shooter, I think around 880 free-point shooting, which is really nice. He's a very underrated rebounder, 750 rebounding, elite rebounder free, or whatever that badge is called. That gives you better defensive rebounding. And he has a rebounding buff in his exclusive of I think either 10 or 12%. So he's not bad at all. He's pretty good. Just again, the issue is he can't be your primary shot creator. He's not as efficient, not even close to someone like Steph Curry. And if he's not your primary shot creator, he's going to be an off-ball support character. And if he's your off-ball support character, what are you really getting out of an off-ball support character that can't block and can't steal and isn't that generational of a rebounder? And his free-point shooting is kind of wasted because, like, if you're an off-ball shooter, you have catch and shoot anyways. They have to guard you even if you're not that good at shooting. So I think you can play Tatum. I think he's pretty decent for solo queue. For trio queuing in high lobbies, it's just difficult to find a lineup where you're getting the most out of someone like Tatum. So I think he's kind of similar to Bosh in that way. I think he's a little bit better than Bosh, so I'll put him at the top of C tier. You could argue him for B tier though. Donovan Mitchell, not very good in the current patch. He's a scorer who isn't that great at scoring. I think he's pretty solidly C tier. Similar to someone like Jamal Murray. I'll throw him above Gary Payton. Blake Griffin, very good dunker. Not quite as automatic as, let's say, a Giannis. And that really hurts the card. Also not as good at defense as a Giannis. Really, he's kind of a worse Giannis. He can shoot the mid-range much better, meaning he has a bit of off-ball value. But if you're playing someone like Blake Griffin, the whole point is you want him to have the ball in his hands. And again, he's not as efficient as Giannis in that situation, so I don't think you can justify playing him very much at top lobbies. He's certainly not completely unplayable, but I don't think he's very good. I'll throw him, let's say here in C tier. Cat, one of my people who I play with a lot. Exploit plays, or used to play a lot of Cat in both versions of the game, the old and the new one. Great free-point shooter. Kind of a similar problem to Tatum. Not quite good enough of a shot creator to justify having him as your number one option on offense. And he doesn't really give you enough outside of his shooting to justify playing him too much. He's a good rebounder, but he's not a very good defender, and I think that kind of kills the card. We'll throw him here, I think. Next up, Harden. Bana plays this, who was in my last video. I play with him a lot. Harden, I don't think he's as good as Curry at shot creation. Not that he's bad, he's pretty good at shot creation, can obviously get freeze. Where do I put him? He's kind of tough. Because I really don't think he's as good at Curry at creating shots for himself, but you could make the argument that his passing badges allows you to play a 3-point shooter that lifts up his teammates that maybe aren't as good at shooting threes. I think I'll throw him towards the bottom of A tier. Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's really just the fact that he's not quite, like if Curry didn't exist, he'd definitely be S tier. But because Curry does exist, I think he's A tier. Really the only way you can justify playing Harden over Curry is because of his passing. And that can help you, but I think the shot creation of Curry is more important. Joel Embiid. Very interesting card once again. He can block, he can dunk. Not good enough to be your primary shot creator in my opinion, but he does have value as a defender and as a rebounder, which is really nice. Not a great shooter from three, I think 500 free or so. Decent mid-range shooter. He does hurt your spacing to some extent, not nearly to the same extent as someone like Rudy Gobert. So I do think he's definitely in B tier here. Where do I put him? I think he's better than Paul George. I'll put him below Jaren Jackson Jr., which might be a little bit crazy. But I just think the 3-point shooting and movement speed of Jaren Jackson Jr. gives him more support value. Next up, LeBron. He's going to be an S tier card. Similar to Giannis, he can just go get 2 points every time pretty much with his power juking. Maybe not quite as consistent, but he has more passing value, which is pretty nice. I think a lot of people have him as the best card in the game. I don't think he's the best in the game. I put him below Curry and Drexler because I don't think he's quite as good on offense as Curry and Drexler. I do think Drexler is more consistent on twos, and Curry has the 3-point shooting, but LeBron is obviously very viable. Very good card to get. I thought I just ranked Joel Embiid. Am I delusional? I did. Why are there 2 Joel Embiids? Okay, well, we're getting 2 Joel Embiids on this list. We'll throw him in right next to his brother. Kyrie Irving. Kind of similar to Jamal Crawford, just maybe better with better shooting stats, I think. I could be wrong. I'll throw him above Trae Young, I think, because he's a better shot creator. Is he better than J. Will? He just can't defend all that well. I'll throw him above J. Will, but it's debatable. Next up is Damian Lillard. Very good 3-point shooter, but he just lacks any great move to get shot creation, or I should say separation from the defender. So I think it's kind of hard to justify playing him. I think he's pretty solidly a C tier character. If they just gave him a move that allowed him to like actually create distance between him and his defender, then he could shoot up the list. But for now, I'll put him towards the top of C tier, I think. Maybe like, is he below? I think he's below Kyrie, below J. Will. I'll put him above Griffin though. Next up is Devin Booker, another shot creator. Again, not as good as Curry, so it's kind of difficult to justify playing him. Maybe better than Kyrie at shot creating, maybe worse. Kind of hard to say. I think he's pretty similar to Kyrie. He's got very good catch and shoot badges, which is nice, but you're not really going to be off ball too much with Devin Booker. So I'll throw him. Is he better than Lillard? I think he is. I'll throw him here. Jalen Brunson, nice power juking, actually a pretty good shot creator. I think better than Devin Booker and Kyrie just because of his power juking, because he has a good mid-range, because he has a good free. But Kyrie does have a better dribble package. I think Jalen is a better defender, if I remember correctly, and has better strength and speed, or maybe not better strength and speed, but a better combination of strength and speed. And for that reason, I think he's slightly better than Kyrie. He just holds up a little bit better on defense, but I still don't think you should play him. I think, obviously, a shot creator like Curry or Shea or whatever, much better. Paul Gasol, decent shot creation at the center spot, or power forward, or whatever he is. I still don't think you can justify having him as your primary shot creator. Doesn't give you much on defense. Pretty good rebounder. I see some people playing him, but I don't actually think he's that good. I'm going to throw him in C tier. Just because if you need shot creation, it's better to go to a guard or, you know, a guaranteed dunker. So you're really looking for more of a support character role of someone like Paul Gasol, which doesn't play as well as some other characters. We'll throw him... I mean, I don't think he's completely unplayable, but I don't think he's optimal, so I'll throw him maybe here. Sure. Kind of similar to Cat, actually. Manu, very interesting shot creation, but he's a guard who mostly shoots twos and can't dunk. Or he can dunk, but just not great. So I think it's kind of hard to justify playing him over someone like Clyde Drexler who can just score way more consistently at the guard position. He's a pretty decent defender, which means I think he's better than Luka. He's kind of similar to Shea in a way, where he's good at scoring twos, not necessarily quite as automatic. I'll throw him in A, I guess. He's also a pretty good passer, to be fair. So yeah, I think A tier is where he should be. Maybe below Durant, actually. I don't think he's as good at shot creating as Durant. Anthony Edwards. I hear a buff is coming for him, at least that's what happened in the Chinese version. Right now, this version of Anthony Edwards is really not good in my opinion. Can't shoot the free that well, which really kills the card, and isn't that great of a defender. We'll throw him maybe, actually pretty low I think. Maybe above Scotty. Above Francis as well. I think Cooper Flag is better. Wemby is really good. He is the most well-rounded support character in the game, and unlike a lot of other well-rounded characters like a Tatum or whatever, he has something that really puts him above the pack that he's great at, that changes the game, and that is his defense. Arguably the best help defender in the game, along with Garnett and Kirilenko. So I think he's a pretty easy S tier. He fits into the most lineups. Like, if you're getting someone for solo queue, I think Wemby is definitely the best character in the game just because he can do it all. He's not a great shot creator necessarily, but you can do it if you need to. But he's going to be playing more of a support role. He fits great next to LeBron, fits great next to Curry, fits great next to Drexler, fits great really next to any of these other characters in the S tier, next to anyone in the A tier. He really fits into any lineup pretty much, so I think he's a great card. I think you could make the case he's the best card in the game just because he fits so well everywhere, but I do think Curry's maybe a little more unique and kind of powerful in a way with his shot creation. Same thing with Drexler. Is he better than LeBron? I'm going to actually put him above LeBron because I do think Wemby is the best support character in the game. Next up, Ray Allen. Ray Allen's very interesting. You could run an off-ball movement system with Ray Allen using his insane breakaway and free-point shooting, and that could be the most efficient offense in the game, but that'd be really complicated. You have to have a free stack with like great screening and comms and maybe plays drawn up. So in theory, he could be S tier, but in practice right now, probably looking at like B or C tier. His shot creation isn't horrible, and he does shoot threes really well, but he's kind of similar to Dame in that he doesn't have a great way to get separation. Of course, off the ball, he is really nice. So I think he could even maybe fit next to like a LeBron or Giannis running off ball, but he doesn't have great defense, so maybe you could argue he'd be losing too much defense against the opposing team's guard. I'll throw him towards the bottom of B tier right now. But I think he has room to move up if someone comes up. I kind of want to run an off-ball movement system with him, but I'd have to buy him, and he's pretty expensive, so I'll keep him in B tier for now until he's proven with an off-ball movement system. Chris Paul, he's pretty good, I think. I think he's pretty solidly A tier, and the reason for that is not actually his offense. He's fine offensively, can shoot the mid-range, he's okay from three, very good passer. What makes him great is his stealing, similar to Drew Holiday. His defense is really good. He's kind of like, you could argue, a counter to Curry. Overall, is he better than Drew Holiday in his role? He can't be your primary shot creator, at least ideally you don't want him to be. You want to run Chris Paul probably next to someone like Giannis or LeBron. Does he fit as well as Drew Holiday? Probably not, because he can't shoot the free as well, and he's maybe slightly worse on defense. So I'm going to throw him below Drew Holiday, but they're very similar. And I do think, like, on average, Chris Paul is going to be better, but if you have a lineup tailored to either Chris Paul or Drew Holiday's lineup is going to be slightly better, and that's kind of what I'm judging this list on mostly. So I'm putting Chris Paul one below Drew Holiday. And And the last character here is Vince Carter. Actually, I don't know too much about him. You can't trial him in the training room, so I can't really test him too much. Obviously, he's very good at dunking, decent 3-point shot. Don't think he's as efficient as these top guys, these top scorers like Drexler. I think he's just kind of worse than Drexler, honestly. Maybe, I think he's probably kind of similar to SGA. I'll throw him there, I guess. And then Kevin Garnett's not in this list because it's a little bit old, I think. I'm going to pretend this RNG is Kevin Garnett, and I'm going to throw Kevin Garnett in S tier, because Kevin Garnett is probably the best defender in the game. The big downside to him is he can't shoot the three, but he at least has a great mid-range, so you can justify playing him in the deep two and still get decent spacing. You could even make the case he's higher and like better than Wemby, but I just think him not having the free does hurt him a decent amount as a support character. He's a really nice rebounder though. I mean, you could put him up. I'm going to actually put him above Giannis. I'll put him right here. And now let me look at this list. I gotta see if there's anything I want to change. So bottom tier, I think I'm pretty happy with. D tier, do I want to move anyone out of D tier? I actually feel like Porzingis maybe belongs in C tier. I think he's better than some of these characters. Well, from there. Anyone else deserve to get out? No, I think that's good. Maybe Scotty Barnes. Looking at this, maybe Scotty Barnes is more of a D tier, I think. I think just like the thought of Scotty Barnes is better than actual Scotty Barnes because his exclusive is so interesting. I'll throw him actually probably quite a bit lower, honestly. He might be worse than the rookie cards, to be honest. I'm kind of losing the ability to speak at this point. I kind of need to drink water, but I haven't in a while. I'll throw him above Paulo because Paulo has like no value either. Steve Francis, I think also probably D tier. Probably worse than DeRozan, actually. Probably worse than the rookie cards. Just doesn't really do all that much outside of dunking. Anthony Edwards, I think he can be C tier because of his dunking. Is there anything I want to change in the order here? I think Peyton actually should maybe be lower. Brown could also maybe be lower. Who else we got? I think Cooper Flagg should be higher looking at this list. Just because he can shoot the free. He fits decently in his support character role. Actually, I think he should be a lot higher. Maybe like here. Peja and Clay could maybe go a bit higher. The thing is, they don't have much off-the-dribble shot creation, which they need in their roles, so maybe I stick them there for now. I think maybe Divac could be lower, arguably, but again, I think you can't argue him for being really unique, and he plays a role no one else can, so I'll keep him up here for now. Jay Will, I think, should be higher because he's good defensively. Like, being really good on defense is really nice, especially if you're a guard who can shoot the free, because you can at least play next to Giannis and LeBron. I'll put him actually quite a bit here. I'll put him above Kirilenko, which might be a bit crazy, but we'll stick him there for now. I think I'll move Tatum to B, move Bosch to B as well. Maybe move Paul George down a bit, just because I think there are better cards in his archetype. I'll throw him at the top of C. Does Draymond deserve to be up here? I think he does. No one else can really play his role of being able to guard guards and rebound. But you could argue that's not too valuable because if you're guarding Steph, you don't really want to leave him for the rebound. But it does mean he's at least more versatile. I think I'll move him down a little bit though. Maybe like around here. Again, like on average, someone like Chris Bosh or Tatum is definitely better than Draymond, like unquestionably. But I think if you specifically build a lineup to take into account what Draymond can do, then he's going to be better than lineups that take into account what Tatum and Bosh can do. Although, I mean, you could argue Tatum isn't really giving much up compared to Draymond on defense. Okay, I'm going to buy Draymond again soon, so I might change the opinion, but I'm going to move Draymond to the bottom of B tier because I need to fully test if he can guard guys like Steph. I don't actually know, because basically guards like Steph, they have this thing where if they have 940 dribble or more, they have a quick juke buff against people who are 3.91 inches or taller. And I don't know if Draymond qualifies for that because he's 4 inches taller, but that's based off of rounding compared to Steph. And I think that will make or break whether or not Draymond is higher or lower than Tatum. Because whether or not he can guard Steph is basically like the whole idea of playing Draymond. That's the whole point. Other than that, I think I'm pretty happy with this list. I think really you want to look at the characters in S tier. I'm actually... Okay, it's going to be a bit crazy. I'm moving Drew Holiday to the top of A. I think he fits really nice in his lineups next to LeBron and Giannis. This is probably completely insane. No one can agree with this, but I really like Drew Holiday as a free and D player. And I'm also going to move Harden up a bit. I actually think Harden might be better than Shea as a scorer. Yeah, I'm going to move Harden up here. Alright, I think I'm happy with this list. Do I want Luka this high? He's a good passer. He can score a bit. Not as good of a shot creator as someone is like Curry, but he's maybe kind of justifiable to bring up the shooting percentages of some other players. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with this. I really have struggled speaking this video. I really need to drink water. I should have drunk more water before this. That's going to be my list. Thank you for watching. See you next time, and bye-bye.